Hey everybody, Greg Medford from Medford Knife, MKT USA, and ASK Knives. Are we all on? Everything up and running? The camera's good. Am I on screen? Yep. Sorry about that, you guys. So we added a live button with a live and mute button last week and changed its functionality a little tiny bit. So I just brain farted on it, and there's a lot going on when you have a little show like this going live. And when you're recording, half of it goes away, but when you're live, it's a lot of bandwidth. I've never really done anything in my whole life that took up my whole brain. Even when I was in engineering school, flying airplanes, doing aerobatics, I was never like, geez, I can't do anything else. My brain is full right now. Doing live video, doing a live show is my full brain gets tasked. So maybe this is the diminishing of my potential and skills over the years as the skill set required has gone up, and I'm at that intersection where I'm like, okay, my plate is full doing live. Here we are on this Friday afternoon. We've got a friend of the shop who has come in from out of state. We flew him in here. We ran a competition this year for I think it was for like coolest post generated, most, I don't know, impactful user generated content having to do with our brand. And we had a couple of runners up, and somebody just by brute force, GT Red Rider, he won by creativity and brute force. He just did a lot of posting and kind of slayed the dragon. But he's unable to make it out because he's got some stuff in his life he's dealing with, and he can't get the schedule to work. So we have a second close runner-up. We wanted to bring Joe out. You know, you can't do what we've done over the last 10 years without people that really like what you do. You can't do it. There's always going to be people who don't like what you do, you know. There's all those motivational posters like, don't feel bad about darts in your back. It means everyone's behind you. You know, all of these things are, don't listen to critics. They're not your customer. You know, there's all sorts of things that go on. And over time, we used to say something in martial arts that said, time will either expose or promote you. Time will either expose you to be a fraud or promote you to be the real thing. So I just stick it out over time, keep cranking away every day. I speak my mind, do my thing, because I guess I know how to mind my tongue, and I know how to fake it. Like if you throw a tux on me, I can kind of roll around at a party in Washington with a bunch of muckety mucks, and I slip in and out of that crowd pretty well. It's just not what I've chosen. I'm out here in the sticks in the Dust Bowl of Arizona. I like it out here. We have kind of a fuck you mentality. Everybody carries guns. It's libertarian. It's independent. It's not big government. It's kind of we like local solutions to our local problems, and we kind of want to be left alone. I think it says on our license plate, the Grand Canyon State, and I always thought it should be called Arizona, the fuck you and leave me alone state. A cool acronym for that, like SCUBA or something, would be nice. In any case, we've got Joe in here today, and we're gonna introduce you to him and talk a little bit about our relationship over the last couple of years. What's going on, man?
Not too much. Thanks for having me.
Nice of you to make it in. Sorry about the false start earlier, and here we go.
It's all good.
So flight in was decent?
Yeah. A couple flights. It was a layover in Dallas, but that allowed me to take a little break and stretch my legs.
So talk to me for a minute about your knowledge of us and our company. We met at NRA one time a few years ago, like 3 years ago.
2 or 3, yeah. Yeah. So I had heard you were coming into town in Indianapolis, and you know, I had never been able to get out to Blade Show or SHOT Show or anything. So I was like, I mean, and I am an NRA member, but I didn't care about the convention. I just wanted to go see you. So I went there, and you and Jeff were there. So I got to meet you there briefly and check out some knives, and it was a good day.
And did you find that how long had you known about us before you showed up?
About 3 years before that.
Okay.
So
you've been around. You've had your nose in our closet for a few years.
Yeah, my first Medford was a 187 DPT. It was like a light Vulcan finish with it was either Coyote or OD Green G10.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about. So you've been kind of a fan of the company and what we've done, and a customer. And you've got to kind of watch the rise of all of this kind of happen, you know, and I don't have an overinflated opinion myself. It's just this little rise within the knife community and nothing else. was I very political or did you know about that when you first got?
I believe so.
So
I've
always been an asshole.
No, like it wasn't anything that bothered me. I mean, I tend to agree with it, with all the things you say on that level. But we were talking earlier. There's one time where I just took some stuff out of context and I got mad for like 12 hours, and the next day I woke up and I was like, "What have I done?"
So what? So do you remember what? Do you remember what it was over?
It was something to the effect of something. That's why women shouldn't vote. And it was
okay. I'm not going to deny that because that is definitely something I said.
It was something about like tender hearts and all that kind of stuff, and I just took it. I took it the wrong way, and there were some other folks that also took it the wrong way, and
like your wife.
yeah, but also Joe Cucarillo and some other folks.
Oh yeah.
But
beta males get really worked up when I say shit like that because they feel castrated in their own cave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen. So let's talk about it for a minute, okay? Because it went away obviously, and you've been supportive ever since. But let's dive into what made you upset. Right. So I've got this. I have two things that I'm always kind of confronted by. Or I'm always wrangling with in any idea. The ideal, the way it is, and a way forward. There's this ideal, there is the way it is, and then what is the way forward? So if it was up to me, the only people who would vote in this country are people who own property. Now it sounds awful, but what it means is it drives you to buy in.
Yeah.
You want to say? Well, then you got to own with the rest of us.
You got to be invested in it. Yeah.
And the founding fathers were really worried about the teeming hordes of Rome in a direct democracy voting for free stuff, which is what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
And what's happened is people philosophically have disagreed on how much engagement or populist voting there should be since the ancient Greeks, quite frankly. And when you do direct pure democracy, they all decay because the have-nots reach and take from the haves. And in all society, the haves are the ones who generally are the core of commerce and wealth generation. So you got this battle going on. And then the conundrum is it disenfranchises people. And so in history, we don't actually see that people don't step up. People don't not step up. They'll step up if they can. They'll step up if they need to, but if they don't need to, they won't. So there's a conversation going on in the country in 1805 and 1830 and 1850 and 1890, and they didn't want women to vote. Because why should a married household get twice as much say in government as a single household, as a widow or a widower? There were a lot of reasons why they kept women out of voting, and it wasn't just misogyny. So Mike, there was misogyny also, no question about it, okay? And so people they ask me about that, and I say, well, of course women shouldn't vote. And guys, beta dudes' heads explode. And then guys in the middle that are very open-minded and kind of centrist, they scoff at me. And then conservatives go, oh, I'm not gonna approve and clap right now, but inside they're going, oh my God, somebody said it, what I think all the time. But the reason why I say that, the reason women vote is because we don't want them disenfranchised. The reason we want women to vote is we don't want them to hate us when we get home. We do not have women voting because it's a great track record of voting over the last 100 years. Now, people are going to be really worked up about that. And there are differences between men and women, I think, and science bears it out. Social science bears it out, especially in egalitarian places like Sweden and Norway, where there's a lot of gender equality. Women are different. They're nurturing. They're from the heart. They are the softer of the species. They are the nurturers. Not all. There are your bull tuffy, square-shouldered, mean chicks. They're out there too. A lot of times there's some psychology in the back. Why? But I think it would be very, very hard to line up 1,000 women in America, 1,000 men, and say that the men are the nurturers.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So on whole, they have They live a little longer. They don't obsess about work quite as much. They balance family life and work life better. They're probably more holistically balanced than men are. It just doesn't mean you make more money, and it doesn't make for the best voting when we have a whole world that we have to fight. And so those are the two challenges. So I say stuff like that. I've never actually defended when I say something outrageous like that. But I say an outrageous thing like that to kind of tilt everybody a little bit. Do I want the women in my life to not vote? Of course I want them to vote. Do I want them to do it from their bunny rabbit hearts? No. I want people to take voting with the gravity that I think comes along with it. You know, I'm a couple years older than you are, but when Bill Clinton was running for president the first time, I cannot tell you how many times I heard women say how attractive he was and they just liked him better. And when I hear that, it is a fucking thumbs down on the logic. I'm like, okay, all right. And I've never heard a dude say, I'm going to vote for a guy because of the way he looks. They'll be like, oh, that guy wants too much of my taxes. Oh, no way. That guy's a pussy. He'll never stand up to Iran. Oh, no. How's that guy going to deal with China? Oh, no. I think that guy's a good business. I mean, you hear, whether you like the reasons or not, you will never hear a dude say, I don't know, he looks great. I just like the way he talks. He seems like a nice guy. That's not the way I vote for people. But what it does is it changed the election scene for the last 100 years. It's put a different pressure on our representative republic. So I struggle with it all the time. So I love engaging women in politics and talk. And what I find is when I engage them, they're if they're really serious about voting, they engage just like guys do, just the exact same way. And they come, when presented with information, they come to the same conclusions.
Yeah.
But I find most women don't want to talk about politics. They just want to vote. They don't want to talk about, no, it's too strong. Can we not talk about politics? They don't really want to talk about it because they don't like the conflict, because women are more agreeable and they're more nurturing, and politics is kind of a grind. Yeah. And they just don't. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, and the exceptions make it on the news. And they're around, but girls that are into that, and I don't want to hold women back from that. And it's the reality. We don't want to disenfranchise our moms and our daughters and our wives and our girlfriends. Of course not. But I do call people out. My real thing is, if you're going to vote like a little girl, don't fucking vote. Be a goddamn woman grown up, thinking about the home you live in or the home you want to live in. Yeah. And so I say stuff like that. I know sometimes it bounces off the drum and it makes a different tone than you expect, or I don't get a chance to sit there and unpack it the way I just did talking to you. Now, it doesn't sound too crazy, just chatted about right now, right?
No.
But if you just say, well, of course women shouldn't vote, people's head explode. Now, sometimes I just say it, and the guys who've been around, they kind of know. If I've unpacked it, they're like, oh, I know what he means.
They know the background.
They
know there's a base there to build off.
But then you just eat your popcorn and you go, oh, what are the comments going to say now? So anyway, and what's funny is I've had this conversation many times with sage women, wise, experienced women. I've chatted with them, and they're like, yeah, absolutely. I of course I want, who's having the suffrage conversation anymore? Okay, that's over. But my thing with everybody is, don't vote for Barack Obama because he's black. Don't vote for Hillary Clinton because she's a girl. Don't vote for this guy because he's handsome. What is the content of their character? That's what we should be, what is the content of their ideas? That's what we should be judging folks on and voting on. So Indeed. I'm kind of a nut about that. So we're going to give you a tour here and give you a little walk around.
Awesome. Everybody
was pulled up right as you walked out. Were they all waiting for you when you got out?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I had 2 meetings this morning I couldn't miss. I had a conference call with a manufacturer in Florida to make some screws for me. So I wanted to make sure that we will buy 1 million custom made screws this year.
Wow. Is that kind of like following the same story of the, you had mentioned a while ago, something about the washers?
Yeah. We're going to buy, lots of washers. And so COVID, the world's overreaction, putting its head up its ass from COVID, has pushed some new pressures into the marketplace, supply chain. Where do you get this stuff from? And you find out that places you thought were American, that said they were American, that say made in USA, they have components that are getting made in China, and nobody makes the components anywhere else. And all of a sudden you can't get things. And you're like, wait a minute, all the bearing cages are made in China? Oh yeah, I mean, well, where are the bearings made? Well, and all of a sudden, and it has all this USA made kind of wording on it, and then we're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So
well,
I'm like,
that's little side note here, but I work with a lot of guys that are former military, and when I'm talking about Medfords, I stress the USA made, and then it's like the material they're made out of is made in the USA. They're obviously manufactured in the USA. The machines he uses are made in the USA. I mean, it's 100% American made all the time.
Yeah, it tries. Well, people don't understand. When you start connecting the dots for people, and this is like the same with voting, everything's the same. Same with the vaccine. It's all about educating people. When people get educated, they start making good choices. But if you just propagandize them, so what I see is I see USA proud, assembled in USA. I'll give you an example. So we have one of our customers who's a super fan of our company and of Case Knives. And Case Knives won American Made Knife of the Year in Blade Magazine. And we saw the price on the knife. We didn't care. We barely even compete in any of that stuff. So the customer calls him up and asks, hey, is this American made? And nobody answers. They forward him to somebody else. Hey, is this American made? They forward him to somebody else. He has to leave a message with their VP of manufacturing or something like that. Some kind of higher up person. And I have no problem with Case or what they do or anything like that. I'm the great American knife company, one of the venerable American knife companies. And then they sent me a copy of the email response from the company, and it said we are some technical compliance to the definition, the U.S. government's definition of American made, what American made is. It didn't say, yes, we're made in the United States right here in our factory in New York. If it's made right here in New York, you just say made in USA. You don't say USA proud. You don't say USA.
Yeah. And
you never say anything about principal U.S. parts. That means so we're sitting there going, okay, wait a minute. Now, we don't know what the deal is, and I'm not saying it's one thing or the other. I'm just saying they were asked point blank, is this made? Where is this knife made? And it took 4 people to answer, and the lengthy answer they got was a recitation of the U.S. government's approval of American-made definition. It wasn't, yes, this is made here in our place. So maybe they have a bad PR handling. Maybe they have a bad internal. Maybe they're embarrassed to say it's made in USA up in New York. I don't know. And I'm not saying it was or wasn't. The price was curious to me because I know what stuff costs to be made in the U.S. And the answer was very curious because those of us who make in the U.S., if someone says, hey, this made in the U.S., we're like, yeah. Yeah, it's made in the U.S. I mean, guy, yes, it's made in the U.S. The guys will pull their dick out and show you the flag tattoo. Like, yeah, it's totally made in the U.S. Yeah. Come look right here. No. The first year I was in business, people accused me constantly. There's like, no way he makes all that stuff. And I was like, that's why I started doing the videos. Because the comments, like, oh, there's no way. He's getting this all made in China. And I was like, oh. That was the whole conversation the whole first year.
Wow.
So I started just doing the videos going, okay, everyone says we're making this in China. You could see the stack of TFF1s right here. Here's the mill they're being made on. Aaron, what have you been making? He's like, well, I've been making TFF1s for like 2 weeks, boss. And I just did it all as kind of like a counterpoint to all these people talking smack about me. What other knives you collect?
Collect? Honestly, none right now.
You don't collect any other knives?
I mean, like, I have others.
Yeah, what do you have?
I have some Spydercos. I have some Benchmades. In terms of like the high end American-made knives, like Chris Reeves or Hinders or anything, I don't currently have any of those.
Have you had them?
I have. After Medford's, my favorite is Strider, actually.
Okay. So you like the kind of chunky, big mechanical stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then yeah, I mean, currently I think probably the top end knife that I have outside of Medford's, I actually have a custom fixed blade by a guy named Kenneth Arment.
Okay.
He owns it's called Papa Bear Knives.
Cool.
It's in South Carolina.
So what attracted you to our brand? You obviously know about a bunch of brands. What
I think it was just the designs.
Yeah.
The Praetorian kind of caught my eye, and then I've had some Praetorians, I've had some ties, I've ordered some ties.
Do you carry every day?
Medford, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They're in my bag.
Okay.
I haven't got them out of the bag yet from the airport, but I brought my USMC fighter fixed. I brought my 2 fighter flippers, and I brought my M48.
Cool. Well, listen, we really appreciate you. I just wanted to bring you on the show, talk a little bit. I think a lot of guys out there watch the show, and to have somebody who's kind of a fan of what we do, been around not just this week, but been around a while. You got some staying power in the in liking the brand. We sure appreciate it. I think I try to do something that's authentic. I try to do something that's rugged.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a reflection of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody always says, "Man, your knives are like you. You're kind of rugged, honest, and authentic, and you punch somebody in the face." I'm like, I won't punch anybody in the face anymore. I'm really mellow. But we want to bring a really cool, honest American product to everybody. I've tried all sorts of ways to be as competitive as possible, and at some point, I just said, you know what? I'm going to charge what this really costs to do this. And what's interesting, in the last 10 years, everybody in the high-end knife business has become unapologetic about the price of knives.
Mm.
And I think we were part of opening the door.
Yeah.
Because we're like, look, this is what it costs. Let's walk through the building. If it's really made in the U.S., this guy requires insurance, and this building requires insurance, and this requires... And I think it's almost been a quiet economic lesson for everybody.
Mm.
Well, we appreciate you being here. We're going to give you a tour, have some lunch, and hang out today.
Awesome. Good deal.
And thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, cool.